All right, and here we are with day 4, scientific notation and roots. With me, your math teacher, Mr. Hain. All right, so what this is an exploration. So let's take a look at our essential questions to guide our exploration today. How can I write numbers in scientific notation? Question mark. And how can I simplify square roots? A question mark. All right, there's going to be 2 things that we're doing today. So let's dive right on in. Mathematical practice 1, perseverant problem solving. All right, so the first thing I'm going to take a look at is writing these numbers in scientific notation. Now, I'm going to show you guys a shortcut that I use, kind of makes it simple for me. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at example A. So notice that I've moved and placed a decimal directly after the first number or digit in our non-zero digit in our number, which is 3. And then I kept the other numbers until all that was left was zeros. Sweet. All right, so now I got to find out, and this times 10, so let's take a look. There's 1 digit and a decimal until the zeros. Okay, so 1 digit that's not a 0. We'll see that happen with numbers that start with 0. So the first non-zero number gets in front of a decimal. Sweet. All right, and then all of the other numbers until all I get is zeros. Now this times 10, it's always times 10. The reason is 10 or multiplying times 10 gives us zeros. So what we're going to do is we need to figure out 10 to the what power. So in order to figure out the power, I just start crossing out numbers. I crossed out 6 numbers to get to the first non-zero number. And so it is 10 to the 6th power. Shaboo! All right, go ahead and pause the video if you're playing along at home. And remember that if you're in my class, showing the work is the most important part. So go ahead and write B and C in scientific notation. I'll be here when you get back, and no, there won't be answers on the screen. Show your work. And we're back. So hopefully you check those out and you got those correct. All right, so now I have D, E, and F. And let's explore what's happening with example D. Okay, so with example D, notice I said before the first non-zero number. So the first non-zero number here is a 3, so I place the decimal after the 3. And then I just have the numbers after it that are not 0, 7, until I get to zeros. And in this case, the zeros would be after the 7. Times 10, that's what it's supposed to be, good. And now I'm going to cross out the numbers after the decimal place. A 1, a 2, 10 to the negative 2. All right. Sweet. So go ahead and do E and F on your own. The answers are not going to appear on your screen. I'll be here when you get back. Excellent. So let's take a look at, it's a negative number because the number is a decimal, so it's small. So I have a negative number here for my exponent. So when I have a very small number, or 0 point, it's going to be a negative exponent. Sweet. Small reminder. All right. So now let's take a look. Scientific notation. What did you notice? In scientific notation, how many numbers are in front of the decimal? Go ahead and answer this question. Check back in the video if you need help. When the exponent is positive, what kind of number is it in standard form? Big or small? That answers our next question. When the exponent is negative, what kind of number is it in standard form? It's obviously going to be the opposite of the previous bullet. Awesome. Now that you've had a chance to take a look at these questions to kind of unpack what we've discovered about scientific notation, let's take a look at square roots of numbers. So a square root, very simply, is a number times itself. So that equals that number. So I'm going to look at some complex example because this is like 8th grade math is what I usually teach. So let's get going with some more complicated examples. So if I look at G, I see that I have a fraction. Fractions don't freak me out because I know that it's just the square root of 9 over the square root of 16. And I know what number times itself is equal to 9. That number is 3. I also know what number times itself is equal to 16. That number is 4. So my answer for G is 3/4. Let's keep on trucking along with H, I, and J, and then you guys can complete K, L, M, and N on your own. Warning, N is a long problem. It will take you a long time. Don't worry. You can do it. I've got faith in you, mathematical geniuses. All right, let's take a look at H. Okay, so it's 81, but it's a decimal. and I know that 81 is 9 times 9, but I have 2 decimal places, so really I have to have 1 decimal place in my answer. Remember, when I'm multiplying decimals, I count up the total number of decimal places in the problem. So if I have a 0.9, that's 1 decimal place, just the 0.9. If I go 9 times 9, that's 2 decimal places, or 0.9 times 0.9 rather, and it gets me 0.81 in my answer, which has 2 decimal places. And this plus or minus in the front, it just hangs out in my answer as well. So wait, plus or minus 0.9 is the square root of plus or minus the square root of 0.81. All right, let's take a look at I. There's a negative, so in front of my square root, so that's going to hang out in my answer. And it's just asking me what the square root of 49 is. You know what number times itself is 49. If you're screaming at your screen and you're saying 7, you are correct. That negative in front of my square root, it hangs in front of my answer. And there you go. So which brings us to example J. Okay, so J is different than all the other problems because it's got a negative inside of the square root. Now, some of you are going to looking at this and you're like, I can use the imaginary number. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry, because it's not part of our curriculum, so don't worry about it. I will take time in class to explore this concept, but in the video, I will not. For our purposes in this video, there is no number that you can multiply by itself to get a negative answer, because negative times a negative is a positive. It'd have to be opposite numbers. So in that case, there is no way that this could have an answer, so it's undefined or a non-real number for J. And at this level of math, that's kind of how complicated we're going to get. All right, so dive into K, L, M, and N on your own. There will be no answers on the screen. Go ahead and start the video when you are done showing your work and the answer for those next 4 problems. I'll be here when you get back. All right, so we are back. And write your summary. Make sure your table of contents is updated if you are in my class. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, keep doing the math.